And now we get to switch to college hockey. And so Charlie Stramel's healthy, in theory.
In theory. Damn. That's
Wisconsin, they kind of got the shit kicked out this weekend. Michigan State, they lost both games. So I would assume
they kind of needed that wake up call, though, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Well, no, but it like like the team that came into the year with such low expectations and to torch like that, eventually you needed to kind of be thumped to see how they're going to come back from it, right? Like this weekend, they're probably going to come out and just slaughter.
I feel like it was like low expectations, very high intrigue. You know what I mean? With like Hastings and, you know, like the players, like half of the roster coming from somewhere else. The Wisconsin
but I feel like
AARP cards.
I feel like most had high intrigue, like for the next 2 or 3 years, not for this year. Yeah. And of course, with the players that he extracted from Mankato, like they figured it out pretty fucking fast.
Right.
I hate them.
One thing, I went back and watched a bunch of Stramel's shifts because I didn't catch them live.
That's not good.
No, I'm trying because he's one guy that I have no doubt that he is an NHL center and there's like, because he does have a ton of, for a big guy that his reputation is he's just like a fucking animal, and like super physical, whatever, like super physical / like borderline reckless at times, which is, it's also kind of fun, but there are a ton of tools that make him like, hey, there could be a pretty high ceiling here. But the thing with him, he does have that super high floor. The thing I noticed, even though he ate a couple bad dashes against Michigan State this weekend, like overall, he does have a very advanced defensive game. It was not there this weekend. I will say that, but he did make a couple of really nice plays. Like he gets hard minutes when he's on the ice. Like, and he's, you know, through 7 games now, he doesn't have any points. He doesn't get a ton of shots on net. Like, it's almost like last year he was obviously super young for college hockey. He was there 17, 18 years old, whatever.
On a dog shit team.
On a terrible team. Now a team that's completely different. Everything is different. He gets hurt early.
3C, right?
Right. And like gets hurt immediately pretty much. So he's still, so like you look at the numbers, not great, especially when you look at the team that is at one point was number 1 in the country briefly. No longer.
Briefly.
You're like, well, all right, well, what's going on here? I still think, obviously, with him recovering from the injury, everything's different. Like last year was a shitty situation. He still hasn't just been in like a position to succeed at all since getting to Wisconsin. So I'm not gonna definitely not gonna give up on the fucking 19-year-old like playing college hockey, because no matter what, that's still tough. I mean, how many guys fucking go play junior for like 2 years and then go to college? But
a lot of them. And I mean,
most of them.
Some people are saying that he wasn't actually hurt. He was pretending that he needed a hip replacement to just kind of launch himself up the Mike Hastings radar. I'm not saying it, but some people are saying it, and I wanted to make sure that we addressed it at least. You know, good for him for being willing to go the extra mile to do what it takes to really get an opportunity.
Team guy. So, yeah, it was actually for no other reason other than Hastings. Like every team that I ever usually someone just pretend. Like I'm out of my comfort zone right now.
Where's that Mike Sierra Valley guy?
Yeah. Fucking me. But I mean, we'll see what happens with them. But I mean, they've got obviously the next week off. Got a little break here, and they'll return to action. So more time to get a little bit even more rest. And I mean, their schedule so far has not been like their first few games were against not the greatest teams, but like the last couple of weeks they've played the big dogs. So that's the other thing with him too. He's getting hard minutes against some of the best teams in the country right after coming back from injury. So we'll keep an eye on him. I'm not overly worried, but was hoping to see some better returns early on this Wisconsin team. But we'll We'll be all right.
All right.
Jack Peart, St. Cloud's turning it around for the most part here. They had
they are a completely different team.
Yeah, crazy. They had 2 real fun games, real solid competitive games. First one was like goalie show / like just meat fest. I mean, it was physical as shit with Duluth this weekend.
Are you just going to call it a meat fest?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's fine.
Okay.
Another guys for you dudes. Like, it's really cool. But it was like just a physical, crazy, like defensive game. Like it felt like every fucking whistle, there was a scrum. There was some massive hit that someone had a problem with. It was crazy. But St. Cloud, they won both games. 2-1 the first one. And they won 6-5 in a shootout in game 2.
Well, dude, how about Lowhite getting
the
saucy and no one else does?
Yeah, no one. Which was like, what the fuck? Like, okay, sure.
It's great too, because like Max Veach, who 10K takes contributor, also our insider for the UMD Bulldogs for MNCAA. Like, when he gets going, it's real fun. And he really got going the second that happened. Like, he's not upset about the suspension. He's upset that literally one guy gets targeted out of that whole clusterfuck, or as Z coined it, the meat fest. Ooh, dog on dog meat fest too. Red Rocket.
Oh, ew! I didn't eat that. That made it too real. But but interesting 2 games from Peart specifically, because super defensive oriented, where he had 3 blocks in game 1, added another one in game 2. Wasn't overly involved offensively, but was good in transition again, as he always is. But I thought just like overall, very defensively sound and very mature game overall, both games. So now he's got, again, points are on a big downturn, I guess, for him this year compared to his first couple, where he's only got 3 and 12. But I think overall he's playing very well, and he's got like 18 block shots at this point. So I still think, like, again, it's weird. Like last year, he took a big step. But this year does, like, there's so much more defensive prowess that I'm seeing. That's very intriguing. And I feel like he's a guy that kind of at times gets a little bit lost when we talk about prospects on the back end, where it's like, oh shit, I forgot we have fucking, and part of that is there's a bunch of guys in Iowa now. Yeah, guys like Lambos, who was high profile from when they drafted him, first round pick, whatever. But even like guys like Masters went off last year. So then all of a sudden he was getting a ton of headlines. Spotcheck was one of their fucking 3 players of the tournament at World Juniors, so that he's getting a ton of headlines, and be like, oh yeah, Jack Peart's like awesome.
Well, that's my thing though. And again, like, you're more plugged in than I am, but it's less about how those other players are doing than it is that I've seen it. Like, I know what he can do. He's the one I'm most confused about, though, for how they translate into AHL, NHL play. Like, he probably has the highest ceiling and the lowest floor of all of those players, right? Like, I'm just not sure what to expect. And it is a weird thing because, like, we've talked about it since he hit St. Cloud, right? Unorthodox, to say the least. Like, you talked about Stramel going in as a true freshman. St. Cloud doesn't generally have true freshmen. And he went in and had a decent role there as a freshman. And as a sophomore, it elevated quite a bit. I just wonder how that'll continue to progress. And I just, again, I'm not quite sure what the translation looks like going from college to Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not
I'm
that
in the same boat.
Here,
no, I'm in the same boat, dude. I'm honestly in the same boat. Like, he's one guy that, again, there was like one thing that I usually do, like, periodically throughout the year or whatever. Like, I'll build like an all prospect depth chart, like a lineup or whatever. And I'm always like writing, like penciling in my 6th defense. Like, oh fuck, I forgot about fucking Peart. Like, god damn it. And I'm like trying to figure out, or well, actually, who's he jumping over here?
Right.
But it's crazy that I'm trying to fit him in because he is so good.
Right. Is he 1? Is he 6? I don't know.
It's interesting. He's just like the way the game's going and how teams utilize defensemen now, and like what some of the most valuable D-men are able to do are things that like that's his specialty. Just like his ability to like he's like an escape artist, like at his own end, where he's under pressure, you can't forecheck him. All of a sudden, he breaks free. That breakout pass that he can, these stretch passes that he makes are fucking unbelievable. But he can also skate the puck out himself. He's getting a whole lot better defensively. So it's like, it's crazy to me that I keep having to be like, oh my God, I keep fucking forgetting that we have fucking Peart here too. But I honestly don't know what the transition is going to look like. I would imagine it has to be, what's he, junior now? I mean, they have to sign after this year. Like, I don't think they would want him to go back for a fourth if they are intent on keeping him.
Right.
Because you have to wonder too, if he's looking at this like, all right, well, where am I slotting in here? Like, we're talking about Carson Lambos. Everyone, I'm sure, is firmly on he's higher on the depth chart than he is. Sure. We've also already seen Damon Hunt getting NHL games. We talked about Ryan O'Rourke at this point.
To play more. John Merrill, so like really skill isn't relevant.
I don't know. So you hate all the things that I do. Okay, that's not good.
Well, so if you're Jack Peart, why don't you elect to go back and play your senior year and have the freedom?
Yeah.
You know, like the Wild can't make him sign.
Right.
One more year of just tearing up that degenerate campus up in St. Cloud. And then
is it weird?
No, it's not weird. They just are very much a drinking and partying school. Like,
oh man,
it's a disaster. It's a disaster in mostly good ways. I won't say that it's all good, but like, yes, they have fun there for sure. I went and did Halloween there one of my years in college, and shit gets weird.
Oh man, I would hate that. Oh gosh. Oh,
that's what I'm saying. Like, why not stay for one more year, party, play for St. Cloud one more year, and then be like, oh, cool, I get to just play wherever the fuck I want to play. This seems nice.
His path's gonna be very interesting to follow. Well, I mean, I guess at this point the path is we're 3 years in, so we'll see what happens with him. But I don't know. He's just
it's interesting because to me, and like this is way oversimplifying, right? But I'm basically seeing Kalen Addison with way better defensive pedigree, but not quite the same like offensive zone vision and distribution of the puck. But what really does connect them, to your point, is that stretch pass, that breakout pass that starts things off from the D zone. Like, that is very comparable between the two of them. And it's if he can kind of piece it together and get the full offensive zone hockey IQ like Addison had, this guy's basically what everyone wanted Kalen Addison to be, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, I don't know. There's still a lot to be determined there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And that's what's so weird about him too, is like forever. Well, not forever, but like there are so many times, like freshman year, it was constant. It was every game, and every time he was in the offensive zone, it was doing the same shit that Kyle Masters used to do when he was in Red Deer. It was just like get the puck in like death corner over there where the blue line meets the wall. Just like either just like throwing it down the wall again instead of, I was like, you have time, space, like walk the middle. You're unbelievably mobile. And he, like, Masters was at the point where he's like, I wasn't even sure if he could move laterally that well. Sure. He can, by the way, he can. We found out when he was allowed to in Kamloops. But like Peart can walk that blue line, but he just wouldn't do it. Last year, he started doing
it. A true freshman, you're afraid to do it because it's like, I don't want to be stapled to the bench, so I'm just going to do it. I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Here so I don't get fined. Yeah, but again, I said this before too often. He was just always relying on that. Like, let me just hammer this fucking puck off the back wall for it to pop out front. It was like, that's the weirdest way to do this, but all right, kind of effective sometimes. So that's interesting. But Yeah, he's gonna be interesting to watch, like see what they like where he ends up at this point. To be honest with you, because the transition, I can't picture it. I can't I'm not confident one way or the other. Like,
right,
I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, he'll be great in Iowa, fast track to the whatever. Like I can't, because there's just he has so many fucking tools. It's just like such an intriguing defenseman. But we got to move on, because I said we're gonna.
On the other side of this, though, right? On the other side of the meat fest, we got another guy who's very kind of blank slate. Don't know exactly where he's going to go because he played forward most of his career and recently pivoted to defense. Baby Pionk, what are we seeing there?
It's funny because like he made that transition to defenseman like seamlessly, and like is defensively. I'm not gonna be like great, but because I think it was the first Minnesota game, he got, I don't know, walked, but he made that transition and looked like a defenseman quicker than I think I would have expected. But he looks great still. Again, super mobile. Another couple points this weekend, I believe. That was the one I forgot to write down. But he is excited. Like, again, great skater, very smart player. And like, you can see where it was like, all right, as a forward, he didn't like pop off offensive. Like, what if we just try this on the back end? And it was like, oh, we should have been doing this the whole time. Okay, great. So another he is a big part of that UMD back end. Like, he's probably playing 25, 26 minutes a night.
I'd say more about him or about the state of their back end.
Well, they're on like a bit of a losing streak right now, so like we're not sure. But like the first, I don't know, 6-7 games they were winning and like playing good hockey. So it was like wildly impressive. He just stepped in. I mean, I think he is. I think he was an overager when they drafted him. I can't remember. But he kind of just stepped into college hockey as a defenseman who has been a defenseman for 3 years, and it was like, yeah, no, I am very good at this, and I am fine. And I might be one or their best or second best defense on that UMD team. But he just looks great. So he's kind of like the same way I look at like Caleb Parker. He's just very intriguing, where he has so many tools that this is the theme of the prospects on that back end for Minnesota is like all of these guys, for the most part, there's like a couple that the skating's hit or miss, but they're unbelievably good skaters, super mobile, transition, they're great. And they've got some seriously high offensive IQ too. So another guy, I thought he would be fine in college hockey, and UMD is not the same UMD team that was making runs to the national championship, but he just stepped in immediately. It was like, yeah, no, I am first pair D-man. I'm going to kill penalties. I'll be on that power play, the first unit, like poised, fine. Looks like he's been, like, he looks like he's a junior. Yeah, exactly. But he looks great. So
nice. Am I correct? There's only one more college guy left? Fuck. I always forget one. So which one am I not?
There's a couple.
Here? A couple being two or a couple?
Your boy, more? Jimmy.
What?
Jimmy Clark.
Oh, God. I fucking forget Clark every goddamn time, and I don't know why. Because I just like skip past the Gophers because I'm more focused on the Gophers as the Gophers than I am about any of them being like a prospect. Like, mostly I'm trying to forget that Jimmy Snuggerud is part of the Blues. I think that's the biggest thing. But yes, let's talk about Jimmy. Yes, I'm sorry. God, I feel so bad.
But the thing with Jimmy Clark is he's playing on a team with a bunch of fucking like legit high end players, obviously. And we said this before. He just steps in. It's like, okay, what do you need me to do in this shift? Okay, perfect. I will go do that. And it's just low maintenance, always making the right decision. Again, same foundational tools. Great skater, phenomenal passer. He's been robbed of a couple of assists too, which always drives me nuts. But I'm like, man, he did everything right and he just put like a fucking tap in on a tee on a platter and then miss whatever.
To your point, like he hasn't done anything like crazy flashy. He just does everything right. He is reliable.
Mm-hmm. Unbelievably
And
reliable.
that's more than you can say about a handful of the guys on the roster so far.
And again, like we talked about this last time when we talked about Jimmy Clark, was like, this kid had no idea he was going to college this year until Logan Cooley's like, I'll go to the NHL now.
I want to know what the recruitment looked
fun.
like for that. Like, do they bring him on campus and just like find whatever the best party was, or find a bunch of girls and be like, Jimmy, we need you here, buddy?
I don't know. Where was he playing the USA Tour? Was it Sioux?
Like I'm just picturing like Blue Mountain State shit here.
Yeah, exactly. But like he said, he's just reliable. He hasn't done a ton of like super flashy things, but always making the right play at the right time. Yep. He can play center, he plays wing, like it doesn't matter. He's great. So I think he's just fit in phenomenally well, especially when you factor in like he had no idea that he's been playing college hockey until like a month or two before the season started. So it's just wildly impressive.
No, I'm like, beyond impressed. I did not have high expectations for this season. Like again, I knew that he would be fine like eventually, but with the circumstances as you laid him out, I was just like, I just hope he's okay. and I'm not worried anymore.
And a team like Minnesota, who has a bunch of like, there's plenty of guys that you would just be like, yeah, that guy's stud, top of the lineup guy. You need a guy like Jimmy Clark, where it's like, hey, our big boys can go do all the offensive stuff. They can put up all the points, make all the flashy plays, like whatever you want to label those as, like those in moment, like the game winning, whatever, like game breakers. And then you've got Jimmy Clark to worry about all the like real hard shifts, like big plays that don't necessarily end up on the score sheet or end up in like a highlight reel. You've got Jimmy Clark back there just doing his thing. So yeah, he's been great. Like,
but he can play up and down the lineup. Like you could play him on line 1 through 4 and it's not going to be a concern. Like,
yeah, and I love those players.
1C? No, but like you could.
You love having those like utility guys where it's like, all right, where do we need to plug him in here? And he's like,
I always go to Brian Rust as the example. Like Brian Rust for the Pittsburgh Penguins has been just that.
Right. Just so like he's been great. He's only got a couple points, but I mean, he can be a guy that's going to be super effective for you, even if he's not putting up all the points in the world. So, and I think his time will come when he's not a freshman, and he's going to be put in bigger spots as his career goes on. And I think he'll be able to produce for them too. So very impressed with Jimmy Clark. There are actually 3 more guys. Healey, we're not going to talk about because he didn't play this week.
You're right. I always forget about Healey. You're right. Yeah. I just space on the fact that he's even a college athlete. So
Harvard's the weirdest schedule in the fucking world. They've played 3-4 games.
Who are the other 2? I know one. Who's
Nate Benoit?
Oh yeah, I forgot Benoit. I remembered him last time. This time I forgot him because I'm just kind of not thrilled that they're number 1 right now, and I'm trying to ignore them. Yeah,
he didn't play in the second game. I don't know if he was hurt or not, but he played in the first game against Miami, 6-4 win, +2 with a block shot. Kind of like exactly what, like that game was the epitome of, if you want to call him Benoit, whatever. That was like, he was just hitting everything that moved. Got 1 block, probably was just like, he's like desperate for any block shot. He was just like putting himself in every shooting lane possible. He's like on the bench, like sticking his head out, like fucking like, yeah, hit me. But just like defensively sound, which is pretty much what I think North Dakota was looking for in him. But so yeah, he doesn't have any points, but like he's just like blocking shots or trying to left and right every fucking time he's on the ice, or just like killing somebody. But other guy, you could say he's good skater, fine in transition, decision making for the most part. He's usually making the right decision and getting the puck where it needs to go. Sometimes he'll make the odd turnover, but pretty much exactly what I think everyone expected. And I mean, again, filling a role on the number 1 team in the country, so that's always good. But the guy who we have to talk about,
this Rieger, is the one I remembered.
Rieger Lorenz already has more goals, more points than he had last year. and he's played 12 games at this point. Yeah, 12 games. Scored 3 goals this weekend, including the one on Saturday in their 4-3 loss to Omaha. Shorthanded, breakaway, and got leveled as he was shooting the puck, went flying almost headfirst into the boards, but it was a ridiculous finish shorthanded. There's 2 goals on Friday were both just like being in the right position, and then just kind of like being an opportunistic goal scorer where he was like, the first one was like a no-look backhand, like a loose puck, and he was just goal scorer's touch, just knows where to put it. He looks so good though. And again, last year he was like, it was a rough transition. Not another team that's unbelievably difficult to step into as a freshman, especially coming from the league that he was in. So obviously that was quite the difficult transition for him. And then he got hurt too, and like never really found his footing again. But this year, like, he's in that middle six. He can play left wing, right wing, doesn't matter. Goal scorer, he's a good passer as well. So unbelievable, like just a monster bounce back season so far. Just very impressive. And like the player that I think they were drafting is that's what he looks like now, which is very encouraging. But very happy for him because he like that shorthanded goal he scored was ridiculous. Like it was like he just took off with the puck after forcing the turnover. And again, like he's getting basically just like hacked. And all of a sudden it was like just the slightest flick of the wrist, roof. Like it was nasty as he's getting obliterated into the boards. But he's feeling it right now. He's old. There's like so much confidence in his game. Like last year, there were so many times where he would get the puck and just want to get it off his stick immediately. Now he's hanging on to it, looking to make plays. So he just looks like a completely different hockey player and very encouraging.
That's good.
All
right. Now we're through college hockey.
Yeah.